1, 2.
Six months.
5 months.
6 months on December 1st.
On December 1st. It's not December 1st yet, so 5 months.
Okay, good. Yeah, that makes sense.
Everything's on the altar now.
My favorite part of being married is that after the longest days ever, I get to come home to my wife. I always have someone that I can talk to, and I can always share life with someone.
Three main points.
I only have one. Waking up and going to sleep next to him.
My Lord, all that I have for all that you are.
Is this from the book?
What book? Sacred Marriage.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Yes, you view your marriage as sacred. What does that mean?
He's the deep answer, man. I'm just the surface level.
She says yes, and then I answer for her.
You just gotta make sure your answers match.
They're the same.
Yes.
Go ahead.
We both believe that our marriage is sacred, meaning that one, it is just for us two, and it's being led by Christ, and in that we try to model exactly what Ephesians tells us. So I'm supposed to love as Christ loved the church, and then O'Malley is to be submissive. We believe in that way, even though it's very traditional. Some people believe it's very traditional. We think that that is a way to keep our marriage sacred in exactly the way Christ wanted it to be.
All that I have for all that you are. You're the
We got married at a barn in Michigan, and the significance was it was really good for pictures.
And that's and that's where Jesus was born. He was born in a barn. So
Okay.
But that wasn't the right thing.
there wasn't much significance in the place,
Ceremony.
but the ceremony, things that were in the ceremony were significant.
surrender that I'm free. It's only in surrender.
We washed each other's feet after, like, that was our first act of a married couple. So, like,
Just
the significance of that.
serving
Like,
each other.
servanthood.
We also, which isn't necessarily anything crazy, played some worship songs. Kind of had like a worship session.
Indeed, I am free. I am free.
Nothing's really different than I assumed.
Everything's different. Me and O'Malley's lifestyle are just different. O'Malley had a good model of what marriage looked like in her family. I didn't have the greatest model, so I had to learn. I'm learning a lot about what marriage is supposed to look like. So my assumptions about things beforehand, I knew they weren't necessarily the best because I knew I didn't have the best model, but I hadn't known or understood what marriage would look like. I'm learning a lot about what humility looks like in my marriage. So I used to be very prideful. You want to take this one before I go deep?
No, go deep.
Go ahead.
No, I don't have an answer yet.
Well, like specific things, our prayer life, which can be a struggle sometimes, just to make sure we pray together, communicate what we feel like God is doing in our personal walks, but then together, letting God lead us in places. So one of the biggest things was when we first got married, was O'Malley going to continue to have her job where she made a lot of money and my job where I made a lot of money? Or were we going to let go of some of those things for the sake of where Christ was leading us? Kind of just letting God have our decisions and making sure that we're prayerful in those, and not making decisions based on things that the world tells us, but based on decisions where we feel like God is leading us as a couple and things like that.
Yeah.
Only you.
The D word it's not talked about. It's not an option.
You guys aren't thinking about it.
Not yet.
We
I
were
just
taught.
meant like in general, couples who are in the church,
Or like reasons. Yeah.
yeah, who are following Christ, and that God doesn't want them to be with that person.
Or like when would divorce be okay if ever?
When would divorce be okay?
I mean, I want to say like never, but I mean, if you're like getting in an abusive relationship.
No, I think there's specific situations where, I guess, from a worldly standpoint, people would say, get a divorce. If someone cheats on someone else, if you are getting hit or abused by your husband, or I guess it could be the other way too, then I think from a worldly standpoint, people make it quite clear that you can get divorced for that. We just both feel like divorce is just not an option.
Only you, give me a try.
I think we're pretty fluid.
We're definitely fluid.
I don't think we really define like this is your job, this is your job.
Except for taking out the trash and dishes, but
And clearly we don't stick to that.
Yeah.
I don't do the dishes.
no, I'm saying it's me. We've set it in stone. It's me that does that. That's my point.
I know.
I was gonna do it today.
I told you I had problems with humility. I'm learning.
Yeah,
No.
we're really.
I think we do a good job of being a team. So we both understand that things need to get done, and it's not one person's job versus the other. We just kind of
Get her done.
take the time whenever we have the time to get those things done.
How does Ephesians play a role in gender roles? Or is that like
For
I think I understand that he's the leader. At least I think I do. That's him. Like in that, like the biblical version of gender roles, I think we're good at as far as chores and that kind of thing.
I think that is a very sticky situation with today's day and age, today's marriages, because they look at that as the husband is over the wife and the husband is telling her what to do and things like that. And I had a very good example of what that looked like from our mentor couple. He said that the husband is the leader of the relationship and the wife is supposed to be submissive to him, but the husband is always exalting his wife, always putting her above him. So it would be like a wife looking down at her husband as her husband holds her up above himself. The husband's job is to love her the way Christ loved the church. So he gives himself up for her and lifts her up, exalts her instead of exalting himself and looking down at her and pointing her. He lifts her up and she's submissive down to him. I think in today's day and age, it's really hard to understand that. But in a traditional standpoint, it was never like the husband is in charge of the wife telling her what to do. It was just he loves her sacrificially, and the wife is submissive to him because she knows that the interest of the husband is to lift her up. And it makes it a lot easier if that's the way that we love each other.
Whenever I sing, yes, my heart.
Number one thing right now,
Date Sundays.
we're busy. I'm busy all the time. Try to keep a devotional life. Stay in prayer with each other. And that's very hard sometimes. She goes to sleep before I'm home sometimes because of basketball games and things like that. One thing that we typically do every single day of the week, we eat lunch together almost every single day because we're blessed enough to be able to be on the same campus. So we typically always eat lunch together unless there's a specific situation that stops us from doing that. And then we have Sunday mornings from the whole morning up until 12 or 1 o'clock. We don't do anything but just kind of hang out with each other. And that's kind of like our sacred time with each other that's so important. And it's become something that we both look forward to every single week because it's just kind of like a time to just stop everything and kind of focus on each other and be with each other for a while.
You're the song of our hearts.
I think communication is so important.
Knowing each other and knowing how to lift each other up, I guess, or just what the other person needs.
I think it's exactly what she just said, but like understanding she has weaknesses and I can support her in those. I don't need to necessarily change her to make her more like me or anything. But God has given her to me and given me to her because she has totally different weaknesses and strengths than I do. And her weaknesses are some of the things that I'm strong at. So I help her in that aspect. I don't change her. I just help her. And some of the things that I don't do very well, like rest, she makes sure I get to rest and make sure that the things that I'm weak at, she lifts me up and is helpful in those. So I think in understanding communication and understanding of who each other is, how we can communicate love, I guess would be the biggest one. 5 Love Languages is a really good book. Like, how do you communicate love to each other? The way I receive love and the way she receives love is totally different. So if I try to give her love the way that I want to, the way I like it, it may not transfer as love to her. So just learning each other in that sense. And then I'd say the last one, which is the biggest key for me, is just being humble and showing humility and not caring about myself and just loving her sacrificially.
And being friends.
Yeah.